I need to open my heart to you about something I have been thinking about for months that will send shivers down your spine. I will tell you something that seems like a movie script, but it's a late-night conversation between brothers who study the scriptures and observe the world. Can you imagine the moment when a piece of news, an old letter, and a political agreement intersect and light a red flag in your soul? That's what I'm going to talk about. When I started putting the pieces together, it seemed like a coincidence. But it's not a coincidence. This is not a theory thrown to the wind. This is something that left me speechless. And do you know what's even more impressive? The roots are ancient, letters attributed to powerful men, secret plans, movements that have spanned centuries. And in the middle of all this is the biblical promise of a final time. I will tell you something that will blow your mind. Some say that an old Masonic letter predicts 3 wars leading to the end. Do you realize how extraordinary that is? Do you perceive the connection between past revolutions and a present-day project? The Enlightenment, the movements that overthrew thrones, the strength of Freemasonry in Italy, the hands that stitched together unification. All of this resonates with symbols and rites that some modern leaders seem to manipulate. And when these threads intersect with biblical prophecies, the tension increases. These are not mere speculations or theories. They are a series of facts that demand attention. Let me share a sacred text here for you to feel the weight. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27 speaks of a covenant that will be made and will have a deadline. This is not free reading. It's a text echoed in many verses in Matthew and the apostolic letters. And according to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3, it warns of a man who opposes and rises against everything that is called God. Do you see how these words align with what some analysts call the 7-year agreement? It's not wordplay. It's a clear sign. Now comes something that will leave you stunned. Names and documents. There is a letter attributed to a great Masonic leader that talks about 3 major conflicts. Many say the document was forged after the events, maybe. But even so, the pattern matches. The first war, the second war, and a third that would have a religious and global character. Do you realize how extraordinary this is? I'm not claiming this arrogantly. I am simply reporting what I saw and felt. This is no coincidence. Let me tell you an episode. In modern history, a political leader brokers a peace agreement. This agreement promises stability for 7 years. Have you heard anything similar? And what if I told you that this exact duration echoes in the scriptures? That puts us on alert. And it's not just symbolism. Whoever loses control of the Mount of the Temple loses the right to prevent reforms and reconstructions. Then comes the pressing question. Has anyone ever planned the reconstruction of the temple? And what if this reconstruction is the catalyst for larger events? Let me tell you something that will take your breath away. Rebuilding the temple is not just archaeology. It is a political, religious, and symbolic act. Imagine 2 nations, a practical agreement, and a solution that allows work on the Mount. This opens a gap for rituals, for departures that change the balance. The story of an ancient temple, the first built by Solomon, the second by Zerubbabel, and expanded by Herod, returns to the center of the board. And when the temple is back at the center, the prophecies begin to whisper again. This is not hermetic theory, it is observation. We see leaders being praised for promises of peace. We see geopolitical pressures. We see religious and logistical movements preparing the ground. Do you know what's most incredible? People internationally celebrating agreements do not imagine that at the same time they might be opening doors to something prophetic. This is no coincidence. The Bible is very clear about times of covenant and peace-breaking. Let me put myself in your shoes. I have read documents, listened to debates, examined maps and followed speeches, and I felt uneasy, not out of a desire for prophecy, but out of love for the truth and concern for you, brother. I will tell you something that will impact you. When politics, archaeology, and theology intersect, something in our time changes. And the burning question is, are we ready to perceive the signs clearly? If you feel that these words stirred something inside you, write a short sentence in the comments. I want to see your reaction. Write exactly, "I see the signs." This phrase helps me understand if you were touched by this reading of history. Now I continue. What I will reveal next connects ancient stories to recent events and leaves a sense of urgency in the air. This is not a conclusion, but a continuation. When I left that last thought hanging in the air, maybe you felt a chill down your spine. And it's no coincidence. When we talk about peace agreements, temple rebuilding, and prophecies echoing for thousands of years, we're not dealing with passing news, but with something much deeper. Can you imagine seeing headlines in the newspapers that seem to match word for word with the scriptures? That's exactly what's happening before our eyes. I'll tell you something that deeply impressed me. This 7-year agreement that so many analysts are already commenting on is not a modern invention. It appears as a shadow in the sacred text, in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, which says, "And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the middle of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease." In this context, week means a prophetic period of 7 years. Do you realize the significance of this? It's not speculation, it's plain text. And do you know what is more extraordinary? This agreement is not just about borders or treaties. It directly involves the Mount of Olives. For the political world, it is just a strategic solution. For those who read the Bible, it is the stage set for something much greater. Do you see how everything converges? The first temple was built by Solomon, the second by Zerubbabel, and expanded by Herod. And now there is talk of a third, clearly. This is no coincidence. But there is something you need to understand. The construction of the third temple is not just an engineering feat, it is a spiritual sign. For Orthodox Jews, it is the restoration of ancient worship. For Christians, it is a clear warning that the end times are approaching. In Revelation chapter 11, verse 1, John speaks of a temple measured at the end of times. Do you see the connection? We are not talking about coincidences, but about a script written long before us. Now comes something that will send shivers down your spine. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4, Paul describes the man of sin who will sit in God's temple, posing as God. If there is a temple and someone sits in it, it means that this temple must exist. And today, before our eyes, negotiations are happening that could make this possible. This is not conspiracy theory, it is a fact. Let me share a personal vision. For years I thought these things were far away. But when I see leaders openly talking about the ultimate solution for the Middle East, when I see projects to allow Jewish prayers on the Mount of Olives, I understand that we are living in unique times. This is not alarmism, but to watch as Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24, verse 42, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour." Now I need to make a heartfelt request. If this content makes sense to you, if you feel it's important to pay attention to what's happening, subscribe to the channel now. This is not an empty request. When you subscribe, you join a network of people who want to study the Bible and understand the signs of the times. This helps ensure that this message reaches more brothers who, perhaps, have never heard about it. Because what is coming is not a matter to be left for tomorrow. It's not just about politics, it's about eternal destiny. And knowing how to interpret the signs can save spiritual lives. It's not about fear, but about preparation. That's why I ask you, subscribe now. When you subscribe, you support this mission to open eyes and strengthen faith. And as I continue here with you, let's dive even deeper into this storyline. Because the construction of the temple is just one of the elements, there is a larger gear which includes alliances, conflicts, and figures who have not yet fully risen to the global stage. And that is what we need to understand together. When I look at everything happening, agreements being signed, nations realigning, leaders speaking of peace, I feel a tightness in my chest. Because peace is what everyone desires, but not all peace comes from God. Have you ever stopped to think about that? Some pacts are disguises, and that is exactly what the Bible warns about. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, it is written, "When they say, 'There is peace and security,' then sudden destruction will come upon them." That will give you chills. I'm going to tell you something that will impact you. The Antichrist will not appear as a villain in a movie. He won't come with horns or carrying fire in his hands. He will come as a man of solutions, a man of gentle words, a man of promises. Daniel chapter 8 verse 25 says he will destroy many through peace. Can you imagine that? A world leader being applauded for bringing stability, but behind the scenes, preparing the greatest deception in history. Do you know what's most extraordinary? Everything is being assembled before us, piece by piece. Alliances, territorial divisions, treaties, speeches about global tolerance and unified religion. All these points connect with the scenario described in Revelation. The Bible is very clear about this. These are not theories, they are signs. And every new political movement seems to echo what the prophets have already said for millennia. Now comes something fascinating. There are archaeological records indicating that sacred utensils have already been prepared for the new temple. That's right, candelabras, priestly garments, instruments made of pure gold. All of this exists and is stored, waiting for the right moment. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has already made exact replicas of the original items described in Exodus and Kings. This means that the preparation is not only spiritual, but also physical. Everything is ready. Only the authorization to begin construction is missing. But there is something even deeper here. The Bible says that this temple will be profaned. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 15, Jesus speaks about the abomination of desolation in the holy place, a phrase that directly links the Antichrist to the reconstructed temple. This means that the same location that will symbolize restoration will also be the stage for the greatest spiritual betrayal in human history. Do you realize how extraordinary this is? And while all of this is unfolding, many are distracted, trapped in their routines, unaware of the silent advance of the prophecies. That's why I say with such urgency, we need to open our eyes now, not when everything is accomplished, because when the pieces fit together completely, it will be too late to understand. Now, brother, let me ask you something simple but important. If this video is opening your eyes and helping you see the signs of the times, click like. This helps the algorithm spread this message to more people. And the more people hear, the more hearts will awaken. Each like is a seed planted for someone who needs to understand what is to come. Do this now. It's not vanity, it's a mission. Because what I still have to tell you will leave you speechless. The shadows are moving, the ancient symbols are resurfacing, and the world is being prepared for something gigantic. And the scariest part? All of this has already been announced. Now hold on tight, because what's coming next will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about the end. When I look at the world today, it seems like each news story is another verse being fulfilled. It's as if the pages of the Bible are turning on their own before our eyes. Can you feel it? Wars, rumors of wars, nations rising against nations, faith being mocked, truth being distorted. And amidst all this, the rebuilding of the temple is back in the news. This is no coincidence. This is fulfillment. But now comes something that will leave you impacted. The temple that will be rebuilt in Jerusalem will not just be a national symbol. It will mark the beginning of a new era, the era of total deception. The Antichrist will use the temple to present himself as the expected Messiah, and many will believe. In Revelation chapter 13, verse 14, it is written that he will deceive the inhabitants of the earth with false signs and miracles. Do you see the danger of this? It's not fantasy, it's living prophecy. I imagine the moment when the cameras from around the world will show this man rising, smiling, talking about peace, unity, and prosperity. And millions will stand and applaud. He will speak of a new spiritual era, quote Bible passages out of context, and even use the word love. But this love does not come from God. It is the love that blinds, the love that deceives, the love that traps. But there is something you need to remember. Jesus warned about this. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 24, he said that false Christs and false prophets would arise, performing great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. That is why we need to be alert, with a steadfast heart and discernment turned on. The enemy does not come frightening. He comes disguised as light. Let me tell you something that will give you chills. While many await a reign of terror, the Antichrist will begin his government with a celebration, hope, and promises of salvation. He will offer healing, stability, and wealth. But halfway through the agreement, he will reveal his true face. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, states that in the middle of the 7 years, he will cause the sacrifice and offering to cease. It is at this moment that the mask falls, and the world realizes that the King of Peace is in fact the Prince of Lies. Do you know what is most extraordinary? The Bible also shows the end of this empire. In Revelation chapter 19, verse 20, it says that the beast and the false prophet will be thrown alive into the lake of fire. In other words, no matter how much evil seems to dominate for a time, it will never win. The power of Christ is eternal, absolute, and invincible. The end of the world for those who do not have faith will be fear, but for those who are firm in Jesus, it will be liberation. So, my friend, what does all this mean for us today? It means that it is not a time for fear, it is a time for preparation. It is a time to adjust the heart, to watch, to seek the Holy Spirit, and to stand firm on the rock. Because when the signs intensify, there will be no more room for indecision. Jesus is coming back, and every step of history screams this. Now I want to ask you something special, something that comes from the depths of the soul. If this message touched your heart and you want to be among those who will not be deceived, write in the comments, "I await the return of Christ." This phrase is an act of faith, a declaration from those who are alert, awake, and prepared. So brother, after everything we've walked through together in this journey, from Solomon's temple to Daniel's prophecies, from modern alliances to the throne of the Antichrist, the question remains, are you ready? Because time waits for no one, and the call is now. Christ does not delay. He is coming. And when he comes, every tear will be wiped away, every injustice will be judged, and every truth will be revealed. Stay firm. The end of the world for those who have Jesus is not the end. It is the beginning of eternity.